Tu has parlat que hem de facilitar, hem de donar la llengua de signes per la construcció cognitiva del nen. Però de quina manera hem de donar aquesta llengua, hem de proporcionar aquesta llengua? Perquè, clar, a l'escola és un lloc on el professor ha de saber llengua de signes i quan té un alumne sord, aquest professor pot proporcionar una llengua, però aquesta no és la realitat. La llengua es pot construir d'aquesta manera? No ho crec. Es necessita construir amb molts nens sords, no només amb un nen sord a l'escola. El nen sord necessita estar envoltat d'altres nens sords, d'adults sords, per poder estar exposat a aquesta llengua de signes. I això no passa a la realitat. I quan un nen fracassa i se li proporciona la llengua de signes més tard perquè ha fracassat en el model oralista, l'entorn que se li està donant per facilitar-li aquesta llengua de signes més tard tampoc és el més adient. Això d'una banda. D'altra banda, sí, estic d'acord que fins als 3 anys poden accedir a la llengua de signes, però els nens que accedeixen a la llengua de signes estan en modalitat inclusiva, en modalitat d'integració amb altres nens oïdors i amb un adult sord. La resta d'adults són oïdors que parlen. Aquest és el model d'inclusió que es promociona actualment. Aquest nen sord podrà construir aquesta llengua? No se li dona la suficient exposició a la llengua. Jo vull saber com se li pot proporcionar un bon entorn al nen sord per adquirir la llengua de signes en aquest cas.
Thank you. And you are entirely right. Here I come and I stand in front of you and I say, every deaf child needs sign language. Great, we can all agree on it, but how do we do it? How do we deliver sign language to every deaf child? Some deaf children are in cities where there are deaf communities, but some deaf children are off in a little village, in a rural area perhaps. There might not be another deaf person around for 100 miles or, let's see, 160 kilometers. What do we do? Okay, I think we need a revolution. And my team is arguing for a revolution. We believe that sign language has to be seen as a biological necessity for the deaf child. Just like if a child has diabetes, you're not going to say, oh, it's really hard for us to get insulin to this child. No, you get this child insulin. You go through the work you have to do to get this child insulin. It's the same thing. It's biological. Now, the burden can't be just on the parents. The government has to help. The government has to say, we are going to teach the family sign language. That's what we're going to do. It's got to be the financial responsibility of the entire community. You know, that's what governments are. They represent our entire community. We're civilized. When you're not civilized, you think only about your own children. When you're civilized, you think about your neighbor's child. You think about everybody. That's what a civilized community is. In fact, I think that you can measure the level of civility of a society by how it treats its most powerless members. And certainly a deaf child is among the most powerless members unless you give them language. So what does the government have to do? The government has to invest in sending a deaf person to live with this family, to teach them. What does the community around the people have to do? People have to learn some sign. If you've got a decent priest in your church, inform your priest that the whole parish should start learning sign language so this child can be part of the parish. It can be done, and it's not easy, but let me tell you, if you decide to raise your child orally, it's not easy. It's hours and hours and hours every day working, trying to teach your child to say ball. I mean, this is absurd. And you're doing it at a time when your child's brain is so ready to learn a ton of things, and you're wasting all their time on trying to teach them how to say ball. That's ridiculous. So I guess you see how I feel about cochlear implants. I'm sorry. So we have to realize that. So we have to help these families. Sometimes families will actually pick up and move to be near a deaf school so that their child can have a deaf community. But not everybody can do that. It's an impossibility for many people. We have to make it possible. We have to give these families computers. We have to give them to the family. And we have to have times when there's somebody on the other end doing a Google Hangout with everybody in the family, to support their signing skills. We just have to make children, deaf children, for some reason it's the mother. When deaf children can communicate in sign language with their mother, they report a much higher level of happiness and satisfaction in their lives than when they can't. It's incredibly important for the family to learn sign language. It's incredibly important for people to have connections this way as well as connections that way. I don't know if you've heard of the book. There's a wonderful book in English, and I don't know if it's been translated into Spanish or Catalan. It's called Far from the Tree. It's a book about parents who have children that are very different from them. Let's say that you are an ordinary-sized person and you have a child with achondroplasia, a child who is a dwarf. You and that child are different from each other, just like a hearing parent and a deaf child. You're different from each other. And your child needs the culture of the family, the culture that is part of their genetic heritage, but your child also needs this horizontal thing. Your child needs to know other dwarves. Your child needs to know other deaf people. And you, hearing people, you give yourself this all the time. Let's say that you're a fanatic for golfing. You're just a fanatic about it. You make friends with other golfers. You sit around talking about what it's like to do golf. And you don't even feel like it's a luxury. It's what you do. We make these horizontal connections to people who have things in common with us, who see some of the same things that we see, who have some of the same values that we have. And we probably have a lot of those horizontal relationships. But we need this one too. We need I need to eat Italian food. I need to. It's part of my heritage. And I would need that whether I were deaf or hearing. So we've got to help these families hold on to this, but we've also got to help these families create this for the child. And it's going to be expensive. It's going to be expensive. So what? It's incredibly important. We pay for wheelchairs because we don't want someone who cannot walk to be a prisoner of their home. We must pay for sign language learning. We must do it. And parents, parents worry. They say, I'm old. How am I going to learn a sign language? You're right. You're not going to learn it very well. But it doesn't matter. Even if you sign badly with your child's going to enjoy signing with you and will learn how to sign well from that teacher who comes in. And then eventually when your child goes off and joins a deaf community somewhere, your child's going to have plenty of people to sign well with. It's like if you're an immigrant in a country, you can speak your heritage language with your children. In fact, it's a beautiful thing to do because then your children will be bilingual. They'll have the home language as well as the language of the community around them. But many times, immigrants, at least in the United States, they don't want their children to speak the heritage language. They want to put that behind them. That was their world of poverty or misery or whatever, and they put that behind them, and they want their children to learn English in the United States. So they speak to their children in very ungrammatical English, but it doesn't matter. Their children don't sound like them. Their children sound like Americans because their children meet other American children and they learn from the other children. And deaf children, they're going to be fine. Even if you're a bad signer as a parent, if you sign with your child's going to be just fine and is not going to sign like you. Your child's going to sign a lot better than you. That's just how it happens. It's expensive. I'm asking for a revolution, and we need it. Look, we talked about animal rights, and we deny language to human beings? This is crazy. As a society, we have to deliver it, and we have to help every family. We have to meet their needs.
Okay. I'm afraid we're running out of time, but if there is a short comment or question, that will be the last one.
Bé, bona tarda a tothom. Se'm sent? Sí? En primer lloc, donar a la doctora les gràcies per la seva conferència. I em sap greu, però hi ha una part que no m'ha agradat gaire, i és l'atac que ha fet als implants coclears. Llavors, només volia fer un comentari. M'agradaria saber per què una persona m'ha sorprès, o m'agradaria saber, o simplement comunicar que no entenc per què una persona de la seva experiència i que porta tants anys treballant en aquest món ha posat una O tan gran entre la llengua de signes i l'implant coclear. Penso que llengua de signes des dels inicis i sempre que es pugui amb implant coclear és una combinació magnífica. Parlo per experiència, evidentment, si no, no ho diria. El meu fill té un implant coclear, molts de vosaltres em coneixeu, ho sabeu. No és una estrella, és un nen normal i no m'he sentit identificada amb moltes de les coses que abans s'ha explicat, perquè no hem viscut en absolut aquest entrenament i aquesta cosa tan dolorosa i de tant patir i tant d'esforç. No, ha sigut tot molt natural. Suposo que tinc molta sort, però penso que és important que gent que pugui estar en una situació semblant ho vegi d'una altra manera i que realment crec que la llengua de signes sí, però si la combinem amb un ajut tècnic com el que ofereix un implant coclear encara pot ser millor. I sobretot penso molt en la intervenció de la Pepita Cedillo. Penso que per dominar una llengua i tenir aquesta competència de la que vostè parlava i que estic totalment d'acord amb això, fa falta que els pares... Més alt? No se sent? fa falta que els pares siguin competents. Està molt bé això de dir portaré el nen a una escola on hi hagi llengua de signes, aniré un dia a l'associació de pares de nens sords perquè contacti amb uns altres nens sords, però si el pare i la mare, o tots dos o cap dels dos, no és plenament competent amb la llengua de signes, l'exposició que es pot fer a aquesta llengua crec que no és de la qualitat suficient com per esperar que això sigui suficient. Bueno, res més, això volia dir.
Okay, and thank you. Thank you, and I apologize. I need to explain to you something about me, which is that I am horrendously risk averse. If 1% of the people who do a certain procedure are going to have a bad result, I think, why shouldn't it be me? This is a kind of a pessimism on my part, but it's certainly who I am. I am risk averse. So the idea of doing surgery on an infant, on an infant's brain, frightens me to the point, to an amazing point. On the other hand, I have to say, if I had a deaf child, I don't know what I would do. I am, you know, of course I'm an old lady now, but I have a husband. It would be a family decision, whatever, and who knows what would happen. Yes, I think that if your child can function well in a hearing environment, and have sign, of course, always have sign, but can function well in a hearing environment, the advantages that you've given that child are enormous, from personal to professional. It's just a lot more doors are open to your child. So absolutely, there is that. And I know people with cochlear implants who have done very well. The people I know were not deaf from birth. They went deaf, got a cochlear implant, and they did very well. But I also know people who function in a hearing environment who are deaf, who have managed to learn to vocalize and to speech read. Very few, but one of them is Carol Patton, who is a very famous linguist, and I don't know how Carol did it. And Carol really believes that with proper training, a lot more deaf people could function well in a hearing environment. But there is no doubt that for the people that cochlear implants work for, it gives you a huge advantage. It opens doors. Many more doors are opened by speech than by sign. But the doors opened by sign are crucial. We have to open those doors. The doors opened by speech, if your child can do it, definitely bilingualism is preferable, just hugely preferable to being monolingual, especially being monolingual sign, because of opportunity. So you are very right, and I should not have put down cochlear implants. Surgery frightens me.
Okay, one very last short question, and then that's really the end.
a tothom. Estic d'acord amb la ponent. És veritat que d'aquestes dificultats, jo treballo a l'àmbit educatiu de nanos sords, he defensat sempre la llengua de signes com un valor afegit per a les persones sordes, com un benefici per a les persones sordes. És molt complicat estar en desacord avui. Per aquesta situació d'avui, una mica adaptada a Catalunya, més a més a l'ensenyament, a l'àmbit de l'ensenyament. Tenim un problema que és la política educativa, és un problema molt important, perquè ara mateix, avui en dia, hi ha una concepció molt diferent. La majoria estem d'acord en defensar els valors de la llengua de signes per als nens sords. Però el govern, la política educativa, aquesta política educativa, té una concepció audiològica i audioprotèsica defensant, lògicament, des del punt de vista professional, la no exposició de la llengua de signes per part d'aquests nens. Jo crec que hauríem de pensar en com fer recomanacions a l'administració pública per tal de canviar aquesta mentalitat, aquesta política educativa que tenim ara mateix aquí, des d'aquest punt de vista professional. Treballen molt en sanitat, la política educativa, treballen molt per la creació de protocols d'actuació, de detecció de la sordesa en nadons sords, també d'informació cap a les famílies i cap als serveis educatius. Hi ha una influència molt fort en aquesta concepció de cara a les famílies del problema que suposa la sordesa, l'implant coclear i la llengua de signes, que és un punt que s'explica molt poc. Doncs s'explica una mica per sobre, però no s'explica massa. Com canviar aquesta mentalitat? I per últim, moltes gràcies per la seva presentació.
Thank you, thank you. I mean, again, it's easy for me to say we need a revolution, but then how do we get a revolution? How do we change things? My team is trying to change things in a couple of ways, and we are hoping that it will spread to other countries. We have been publishing articles in medical journals to inform doctors that language acquisition is a medical matter, because many doctors do not follow the literature in linguistics and psychology, and they don't know that the language mechanism is plastic. They just don't work on that. They don't know anything about that, and it's not taught in medical school. So we've published a number of articles informing doctors. We've also published an article calling for a change in medical school education so that every medical student will learn about first language acquisition, and every pediatrician and otolaryngologist, otorhinolaryngojatra, I don't know how you say it in Catalan, all of those people will know that the child needs sign language. And we've heard from 2 medical schools who read our article and said that they're going to take our suggestions. So maybe things are happening, but I want to tell you something big that's going to happen. There's a journal called Pediatrics. It is the most read journal by pediatricians all around the globe, everywhere. It is the journal of the American Pediatric Society. It is hugely important. And they're going to publish an article that we have contributed to. It's this debate kind of article in which the final conclusion is that every deaf child should be given a sign language, regardless of whether they get a cochlear implant. Every deaf child should be given a sign language. When this article comes out, and it should come out this spring, when it comes out, we expect huge debate. We expect a lot of arguments. But because it's in that journal, we expect the American Pediatrics Association, we expect them to change their policy of what doctors recommend to families. Right now, doctors are recommending to families, get a cochlear implant. Whether or not you give your child sign language is your choice. It shouldn't be a choice if it has to do with the biological health of the child. And your cognitive health is part of your biology. So hopefully the policy is going to change, and the doctors are going to say, give your child sign language, and maybe they'll also be saying, give your child a cochlear implant, because at least in America, the medical profession is very much behind cochlear implants. So that will make a difference. We've also written an article that appeared in a legal journal in which we argue for the right to language. And we're constantly working on articles. We're working on articles trying to get the government to have to pay. But what I want to say to you is we're not the only people, and we're not even the most successful people. In Brazil, there is a woman who, I think she's a goddess. Her name is Ronice Muller de Quadros, and she has managed to get a law passed which says that every deaf child has the right to an education in a sign language. Every single deaf child. What that means is that Brazil now is suddenly educating a ton of people to become bilingual, to learn Brazilian Sign Language, Libras, to learn it, so that they can go teach, so that they can be, any classroom that has a deaf child in it will now have two teachers, one who is speaking and one who is signing. And the deaf child will be will get every aspect of the education that is afforded by a signing teacher. Obviously, the signing teachers, the child's going to need help with discussion, interpreting and whatever, but there's a lot that's going to be given just by that signing teacher. And how Ronice did it, I don't know, but she's very generous, and she has given me her materials that she presented to the government, and we're getting them translated into English, and we hoped to push on that in the United States. But the United States is a very conservative and stupid country in 1,000 ways. It is. I mean, it's my country and I love it, but it has a lot of problems, and it's big and it's hard to fight things. But if anybody wants, I can pass you Ronice's materials, and fight for it. Fight for it here. We need lobbyists. We need advocates. You just hammer away. You chip and chip and chip and chip. Look how long it took. Well, I don't know what the situation is here in Catalonia, but in the United States, it took so long for gay people to have rights. But it happened. It's finally happened. Chip, 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 and it happened. I think that it is much easier to understand why sign language is important to deaf children than it was for certain religious people to understand why somebody might fall in love with someone of the same sex, you know. And so given that it is so easy to understand, I think that the chipping should not take that long. It's just that it's recent chipping. You know, it was only in the 1960s that people started to understand that sign languages were real languages. And it's recent.
Okay. So on this positive note, let me thank you again for this wonderful session. I think we all enjoyed it very much. It was a pleasure to have you here. And let me thank the General Directorate for Language Policy who co-organized this event, and of course, all of you who attended this evening session. And we hope to see you again in the near future in other possible events. Thank you very much.
Thank you.